Okay, so we got a lot to talk about in this episode. For starters, the Boruto fandom has definitely a little bit of bragging rights at the very least after this news that broke a little while ago regarding Boruto actually outdoing quite a few IP that it is associated with and ultimately that are a part of the conglomerate that Boruto is incorporated within. This is big, this is huge, and there's definitely a lot to discuss regarding Boruto. Yeah, taking a big major win. We got huge news regarding a massive Jump Plus manga. This one is actually coming to an end, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very much so conflicted in one way or another regarding this series finally reaching its climax. So we definitely got to discuss this. A new art piece was recently released for My Hero Academia, and within it, Horikoshi, the creator of My Hero Academia, had a few things to say that kind of relate to the series, and in particular touch up on stuff that maybe fans thought or kind of had misconstrued notions of. So we're gonna be discussing that, and we also have an updated circulation number for the Jump manga that are currently running, or at the very least are all supposed to be serialized in there, basically giving you the exact number more or less that the manga are standing at currently right now. So we got a lot to talk about and more. Without further ado, let's jump into another exciting episode of Forever News, the only news source that provides anything and everything anime and manga related, and we don't bore you, we get into it. Let's do it! And of course, before we continue, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get notified on all the stuff we have coming, all the videos, everything you want to know in the world of anime and manga. You'll be able to get it right here, so hit them buttons. Okay, first up on the docket, Boruto fans. Now, there's been so much to say about Boruto since its inception. Since the manga very first started, people have had gripes about it, and throughout the journey, there's been one way or another people having something to say about the series. But ultimately, the Boruto series, the Boruto franchise as a whole, has taken one of its biggest wins as of recent. While I was not covering certain aspects, this news actually arose, and not only is it something, I guess, of a, I don't want to say bragging rights, because are we really competing here at the end of the day? Some people might say we are. But nevertheless, Boruto franchise, considering a lot of the flack that it's received and ultimately just the perception of the franchise as a whole, there's definitely something to note with it taking a major win at this magnitude, because people have talked about Boruto's manga sales, people have talked about Boruto's perception, because recently they released the TV Tokyo financial report for 2025, and within it are the top 5 franchises that bring in the revenue. Essentially, the ones that bring in the big bucks, so to speak, are in this one. And there's also something interesting to note in this one as well that we'll dive into in a bit. Ultimately, one of the things that a lot of fans are probably going to be really excited to note, if they don't know already, is the fact that Boruto took its probably biggest win I've seen throughout everything, because on this one at number 5, which is very awesome to see, is Black Clover. Black Clover, despite the fact that it hasn't had any anime sort of stuff within the last couple years, ever since that Sword of the Wizard King film, Black Clover is still bringing in and generating top 5 revenue for TV Tokyo amongst Goliaths. So anybody that's been sleeping on Black Clover, that's your loss. Ultimately, the manga, even though it's pretty much only been running quarterly, yeah, Tabata definitely treats his fans right and gives them as much content as he possibly can, sometimes upwards of 2 and 3 chapters a release. But nevertheless, that is pretty much, for the most part, outside of the mobile game, all that Black Clover really has been releasing. I think they just announced that they have like a card game. It might be out, I'm not sure when it was the release date for it, but there was some sort of card game that they were working on for Black Clover, so there's that. But for the most part, it's just been really a quarterly manga and a mobile game. So for Black Clover to be one of the top 5 franchises generating revenue, that is humongous and major. And I know this is a Boruto related thing, but I just had to give Black Clover its props where it's due, because ultimately that's big, considering the fact that above it is a Goliath that you would never think. Wait, you're telling me that, again, Black Clover is in the same conversation as far as, you know, popularity wise and revenue? Pokemon at number 4 is Pokemon. I mean, what can you say? You know all about it. You've heard about it since you was probably, I don't know, born. You know what I mean? So Pokemon in there, not a surprise. You know, whatever this includes as far as revenue, we know Pokemon brings in revenue, whether it be a video game that releases, the card game, all of it is still major. So Pokemon being in here, not a shocker. Number 3, another one that never was a shocker, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the biggest trading card games of all time. I'm not surprised that Yu-Gi-Oh! Will be in here either, whether it's the card game, the TV series, the, you know, merchandise, whatever the case may be, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be in here. But now here's where Boruto and Naruto fans definitely have something to say, because coming in at number 2 at the very least for this financial report 2025 thus far is Naruto, with Boruto number 1, which is fascinating to say the least, considering the fact that almost every single time I have ever reported on this list, Boruto was number 2 with Naruto being number 1, considering that Boruto is the Sun IP under Naruto. What I'd imagine happened here is as follows. First of all, you always gotta account the fact that Boruto still, I guess, benefits from the fact that it is under the Naruto IP. So let's just say a Hokage Naruto sticker is sold, for example. Ultimately, that revenue is going to count towards Boruto, despite the fact that it's Naruto. It pretty much feels like it's kind of propping a little more Boruto, utilizing a lot of the assets of Naruto. And I don't want to take anything away from Boruto, because shout outs to Boruto actually getting a win here of, you know, astronomical proportions for Boruto to be just scratch the Naruto-Boruto scenario, right? Because at the end of the day, it's father-son series. Anyways, Boruto being over Yu-Gi-Oh! Boruto being over Pokemon, that's indescribable amounts of success, because we know those are 2 global phenomenons. Like, you know, Black Clover is what it is, but Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon are global phenomenons. So for Boruto to be at that height, I can do nothing but at the very least show some respect and ultimately some kudos for Boruto being able to do that, despite the fact that it is benefiting off of Naruto's name. We gotta throw that in there. I know Boruto fans hate that and they're like, no, but it is what it is. It's just the truth. It was also recently announced that Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, based off of the first 4 volumes alone, not including the rest of the franchise, only the 2 Blue Vortex time skip volumes, that it already has 1 million copies in circulation. For some people, they're like, 1 million copies? Naruto used to sell 1 million copies per volume. Well, this is not Naruto. This is a spin-off, and if you compare the success of Boruto, since people like to do that, I mean, personally, I just like to see it get a win regardless, but ultimately it still is doing fantastic in comparison to a lot of its counterparts. So I just want to give praise and props. Yo, 1 million copies, 4 volumes, that's pretty awesome for the series too. And I believe the latest volume actually sold more than every other volume of 2 Blue Vortex thus far. So it's only uphill from here for the most part for what it seems with Boruto. And again, I have to stress that Boruto being a financial leader right here, there's no wonder regarding Boruto actually being announced on the website not too long ago that the anime will be returning soon. They wanted to make sure they clarify that for fans. Yeah, they want to make sure that everybody knows Boruto is coming back with the anime, because it is a moneymaker, and all we could do is hope that when it does return, they don't go crazy with filler. If they want to do some original stuff, if it's supervised by Kishimoto and Ikemoto, I won't be too mad about it. But ultimately, for the most part, if they give it that 1,000-year Blood War Bleach treatment, you know, that greatness, that 10 out of 10 quality, yeah, Boruto stocks is going to be going through major progression. But again, only time will tell, and I'm curious what you guys think about this one. For starters, how do you feel about the Boruto franchise taking number 1, despite the fact that, again, some of it is coming from the gacha game, and ultimately some of it is due to and attributing to Naruto? Do you feel yay, nay? I mean, I still gotta count it as a win, ultimately, especially considering that it is in a bracket with Goliaths like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Black Clover. Your thoughts on Boruto in general doing 1 million within 4 volumes? Personally, I think that that's a big win as well, considering manga sales aren't what they were a few years ago. I know people have those glasses on of remembering Demon Slayer selling millions, 2-3 million each week, and all sorts of stuff. One Piece doing 2-3 mil a volume. Like, those days aren't now. Like, maybe at some given point that might happen again, but for now, where the industry is at, also considering the fact that Boruto's anime has been off air for a number of years now, doing those type of numbers for a monthly series that doesn't get nowhere near the promotion that it used to, or a lot of its other contemporaries get, that's a win. And And just your overall thoughts and expectations for the Boruto franchise moving forward. Yeah, it's a moneymaker at the very least, and that's a good sign because that means that they're going to definitely have eyes on giving Boruto the treatment that it hopefully should get, considering it's been doing good things for the franchise, good things for ultimately the future of things with Naruto. Moving forward. Okay, people, this one right here came as a complete surprise for myself. I did not see this coming because for the most part, as of recent, I've really just been sticking close to its anime counterpart, but I did not see that this was going to happen with Kaiju number 8. And what I'm referring to is the fact that if you haven't seen the headlines everywhere, if you haven't seen the title of this whole thing, yeah, Kaiju number 8, the Goliath of a series that exploded in popularity as of the last few years, is coming to an end within the next couple chapters, which is kind of, again, a shocker before we even get into the article and read all the details and whatnot, just because Kaiju number 8, from my understanding, has been a pretty successful anime. Maybe it's not doing the Attack on Titan type of scenario in terms of like everybody, you know, thought it was going to be the spiritual successor to Attack on Titan, but it's still pretty damn successful. They did a film compilation, I think, fairly recently. The manga sold astronomical numbers. Personally, I am going to attribute a decent, at the very least, amount of attention that Jump Plus, the, you know, spin-off digital magazine from Shonen Jump, I'm going to attribute some of that success to Kaiju number 8's explosion. It was a leader to that whole app, and it's what got a lot of attention to it. Sure, there's the Spy Families, and there's a couple of other titles on there that are pretty significant, but when it first began, and when I first heard about it at the very least, a lot of it was due to Kaiju number 8 being one of the manga that were an inception at that platform. So to see now, these years later, Kaiju number 8 actually getting announced that it's ending, it's shocking, it's jarring, and at the same time, well, let's read this article and see all the details. Kaiju number 8 announces final chapter, and it's ending sooner than you think. In a world where Weekly Shonen Jump is searching for movers and shakers, especially following the end of My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen, which quickly, at some given point, I do want to make a follow-up video and just kind of something regarding the whole state of Jump manga now, because yeah, it's getting pretty critical. So if y'all want to see me do another updated video on the state of things, let me know. Kaiju number 8 became one of those big new series, with the anime adaptation's first season by Production IG introducing plenty of new fans to the story of Kafka Hibino. The studio wasted little time in confirming that a second season was on the way. Unfortunately, it's about time to say goodbye to the Japanese anti-kaiju defense force, as Shonen Jump has confirmed that the manga is ending and it is releasing its final chapter far sooner than you might think. And quickly, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I actually have the article right here that the anime's second season, they just put out a new promo. Kaiju number 8 TV anime season 2 new key visual will start broadcasting July 19th. So once again, this new trend that really I feel Demon Slayer inspired and pioneered is continuing, where the manga is going to end, but they're going to carry on with the anime, because there's a lot of chapters of Kaiju number 8. There will probably be, depending on if they decide to continue on the studio, quite a few seasons of Kaiju number 8's anime, but the manga is coming to an end before that, which that was historically never the case with anime. So very, very interesting choice, but let's get back to it. Kaiju number 8 will end with its 129th chapter, meaning that the manga will come to a close this summer, with chapter 128 set to release in 2 weeks. Barring another delay between that chapter and the grand finale, it means that the series could potentially end at the end of June. The announcement was made on the final page of the latest chapter, informing fans that the series would wrap following the 2 upcoming chapters, leaving many to wonder how Kafka's story will wrap, and perhaps more importantly, how creator Naoya Matsumoto will end things without much time left. Yeah, 129 chapters. That's going to be a tall order in terms of the amount of seasons of the anime. Like I said, unless they're going to do a rush job and adapt everything with season 2, we're going to be running with Kaiju number 8's anime, depending if you watch it or if you're going to continue watching it, for some time to come. Just the source material, the manga, will be wrapping itself up. Unfortunately, Matsumoto has yet to state whether a sequel and or spin-off series will be released following Kaiju number 8's conclusion, but Production IG's anime adaptation still has plenty of material to cover. Following the first season and the compilation film, the franchise is planning to drop major news regarding the second season at this year's Anime Expo event, with the next season planning to arrive on Crunchyroll July 19th. It will be interesting to see what this news is, especially in the face of the finale confirmation. It's certainly possible that a third season will release, but it'll be interesting to see how many additional anime seasons the franchise will garner to catch up to the ending. I'm gonna say, based on that, with the second season, I think that the second season's success is going to be pivotal on them going forward with a third and fourth season, because let's be honest, creating anime is a costly type of deal. So if the second season doesn't at the very least match or close to what the first season did, they're probably going to either at the very least put it on the back burner, or yeah, there might not be a third or fourth season. I'm gonna say that it's popular enough and it's loved enough and successful enough, especially the source material, that it probably will get a full-length adaptation. It's just a matter of, are they gonna do a second season and then try to cram everything into a couple films after the fact? Like, there's a lot of different ways they could go with it. And again, because the anime is like the bread and butter of everything nowadays in the anime and manga industry, chances are they're probably putting a lot of their chips on the anime. So hopefully the second season, for fans of the series, if they want more of the anime, support that second season, because if not, it's going to be over with. And Kafka and all of the characters that you love and care about, you're not going to see them for a third, fourth, fifth season, which I think probably 4 seasons would be enough to wrap everything up comfortably, but they might do 3 seasons and a couple movies depending. Kaiju number 8 certainly hasn't had an issue in expanding its universe in the past, creating spin-off stories written and drawn by other manga artists. With the series first beginning in July of 2020, the final chapter will potentially arrive just in time to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the franchise first hitting the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump Plus. We gotta add the plus because this was always a plus title. Whether the main series continues or not, the impact that Kafka and his allies have had on the anime medium won't be soon forgotten. With shonen series like Kagurabachi and Spy Family currently some of the biggest new manga still in Weekly Shonen Jump, it will be interesting to see if any newcomers are able to take the spot that Kaiju number 8 has held for the few years of its existence. And I'm gonna throw in Kagurabachi being in this title or within this whole thing makes no sense, because Kagurabachi is a Shonen Jump title, the main physical publication. Spy Family and Kaiju number 8 are Jump Plus titles. So yeah, Kagurabachi, I mean, I guess they're just talking about, they could be referring to Shueisha in general, but considering they keep on referring to it as Weekly Shonen Jump and the pages of Jump, no, those are Jump Plus titles, whole different ball game altogether. And Kaiju number 8, along with Spy Family, has been one of the leaders of Jump Plus. And honestly, like everybody else, it's going to be interesting to see how they decide to end the series. Yeah, hopefully it inspires other series to maneuver in that fashion. Ultimately, Kaiju number 8 ending with 129 chapters. I gotta ask you guys, pass off the question, how do you feel about this? For people that are caught up with the manga, do you feel that this is going to be a proper conclusion? Does it have enough time to answer all the questions? What do you think about Kafka and his whole dream? How's that going to end up? And your overall expectations for the finale. It's interesting that this has been a huge title for Shueisha. It still sells really well, so the fact that they're allowing this to wrap itself up for the, at the very least, manga portion, they're probably betting on that there's enough content to keep the anime moving for a while, assuming that the anime is successful enough to kind of have more seasons after the second one. But only time will tell. Again, let me know you guys think, overall thoughts on this one. And yeah, Kaiju number 8 is coming to an end in the next couple weeks, or in the next couple chapters. Okay, My Hero Academia fans, I got some pretty interesting, exciting news regarding the franchise, in particular regarding the author Kohei Horikoshi, because, well, there's a couple of things that he's been doing recently. For starters, one of the things that just recently was released for My Hero Academia, and there's a lot of insight into it, is that there was an Ultra Artworks book that was released for the series, and within it there was a lot of really awesome pieces of artwork. There was a lot of interesting insight that he gave in there, so we're gonna kind of go through a lot of what Kohei Horikoshi said. But before that, there is something interesting that's going around, a really exciting and good rumor regarding the author Kohei Horikoshi and something that he's working on the side, because despite the fact that the obviously, you know, original manga My Hero Academia has come to an end, of course, you know, you got the anime on the way, you got the Vigilantes anime currently airing, but Kohei Horikoshi is still staying busy, because again, we got this Ultra Artworks book that was put out with a lot of tidbits of information. And then there are, we're gonna say rumors for right now, but a lot of people are saying, no, it gotta be, rumors are going around that he is the lead designer behind Marvel's Token fighting souls, and a lot of people are saying that based on the character designs and the art style that they're spotting it and saying, no, it gotta be Kohei Horikoshi. If that's the case, that is beyond, first of all, a congrats for Kohei Horikoshi, and ultimately just exciting news to say the least. But now onward to the stuff from the Ultra artworks. For starters, there's been a piece of art that's been out there for a while that kind of, even myself personally, when I saw it, I was curious if Kohei Horikoshi was hinting at anything when he put this artwork out, and it came out a while ago, but essentially it was the piece of Deku kind of catching Uraraka as they're like floating in the sky. And some people's interpretations was so many different things of maybe there was a battle that they had and they were kind of like, you know, going down after beating the villain or whatever the case may be, or if it was just simply like, hey, this is a really cool illustration that Horikoshi created. Horikoshi says in the My Hero Academia Ultra artwork book that for this illustration of Deku and Ochako, it wasn't to hint at what might happen in the future. He just thought that despite how battered everyone looks, they would still be smiling. And I believe this is the exact question and quote. They said, is there any connection with that drawing from the exhibition in regards to the main story? He said, it's merely an illustration, so I cannot say for certain that a scene like that would happen. However, I drew this piece thinking about how it would be like if I were to show their relationship. So on that note, it's not entirely unrelated either. I interpret that as, yo, Deku will always be there for Uraraka, and ultimately that they got love like that for each other, that they're going to be together doing it up. So that's what I interpret it as, and also I interpret it as just some incredibly beautiful piece of art that Horikoshi did, and yeah, bravo to that. So it's interesting that it wasn't necessarily hinting at a particular scene, but it was also hinting, I want to say, at their bond, that they just got that type of love for each other. Then for this piece, Horikoshi commented for this My Hero Academia color page art, he wanted to pay tribute to Dragon Ball and by extension Toriyama. As such, he wanted to draw artwork of everyone going on an adventure in the sky while riding dragons. Horikoshi mentions that in the My Hero Academia 6th anniversary art, Deku was the one who was taking photos of his classmate. He said there's an odd space next to Deku's left hand, and that's because he wanted to draw a camera but didn't have time before the deadline. Horikoshi says for this My Hero Academia steampunk artwork, he was pressed for time on his deadline and didn't paint it but used colors to make it look complete. He says he likes Kirishima's costume here and feels like the potential AU story is captured in the art. Horikoshi mentions that the theme he was going for in the My Hero Academia 5th character popularity poll was a space fantasy where everyone was wearing custom costumes. Horikoshi says he was glad he could draw everyone from Class A in a commemorative photo since it was the last colored spread in Weekly Shonen Jump. He says the Class A girls helped tie that ribbon on Aizawa. Nobody could deny at the end of the day. You could say whatever you want about the story, but when it comes to art, Horikoshi is bar none, top of the line, one of the best. Like, even in little details, like he makes sure that he adds in all sorts of different cool little trivia and whatnot, and it's just fire. Like, shout out to Horikoshi. Horikoshi says he drew this art with the movie Train Spotting in mind. This illustration relies heavily on the color red. Red is his usual go-to color when he's stuck on what color to use in his art. Horikoshi comments on his drawing for My Hero Academia Volume 37 cover that it leads in from the previous 36 cover, Todoroki vs. Dabi, which he says the blue color he used looked really good. He says he uses the color red in this art to express Deku's intense emotions, and this is the volume 36 he was referring to, and I ain't gonna lie, that cover looks raw. That blue looks amazing. And he even commented on volume 1's cover. Horikoshi says My Hero Academia volume 1 manga cover was drawn to showcase All Might and his presence. The stark yellow background was chosen so that it can draw people's attention if you're casually browsing the manga shelf at a bookstore, and that was one of the best choices I would say early on that Horikoshi made, because for the longest time, and pretty much honestly throughout the whole story, All Might was my favorite character, is one of my favorite characters, and kind of having it there, like, yes, Deku is of course the protagonist, the MC or whatnot, but just making sure to always have All Might's presence was phenomenal, and it was a great choice to show master and student to begin things and kick things off before the story really, you know, took shape and became what it ultimately was. And yeah, last but not least is the updated art of all the characters from My Hero Academia from the finale. You got anywhere from the villains, of course, on one side of things. You got Shigaraki and Spinner. Then on the other side of things, of course, you got Tokoyami at the top right here. You got just a whole roster of really awesome art. And honestly, Horikoshi made sure that to finalize things, he made some greatness. And then on the last page right here, you got Todoroki, Bakugo, Deku, Uraraka. He always makes sure to keep Deku and Uraraka close. And yeah, honestly, shout outs to this book, because this is something I feel like if you're a My Hero Academia fan and you get the opportunity to pick it up, I definitely would, because it looks awesome and it's a great way to finalize the franchise. I think it's only out in Japan at the moment though. Okay, and moving forward, now a lot of y'all know that Weekly Shonen Jump has changed a lot over the years, but ultimately some of the manga that are still in the magazine, we finally have an updated look at the sales figure for pretty much every manga that is in Weekly Shonen Jump. Now I want to stress this is Weekly Shonen Jump, not any of the other side publications, so you're not going to get any Kaiju number 8, Spy Family, Chainsaw. You're not going to get none of those titles because those are all in different publications. This is strictly for the weekly magazine, and this list is definitely interesting considering you're not going to have in this one series that ended like My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all of the other big dogs that came to an end. And yeah, the numbers is really telling on what I said earlier in this whole episode of there's a lot that needs to be said about the future of Weekly Shonen Jump considering where we're at with things. But let's take it from the top with, you know, the number one biggest, of course, and it's the longest running one and it has the most volumes, and of course that series is One Piece. One Piece right now is sitting at 516,566,000 copies, so over 500 million One Piece volumes out there right now. No questions, no nothing. It's the highest selling manga of all time, and outside of, and I always forget if it's Batman or Superman, I want to say maybe it's Batman, One Piece is pretty much one of the highest selling comics by a single author of all time, period. It's one of the highest selling books of all time, period. Like, One Piece is that humongous. So, you know, the fact that it's still in here, it's very interesting and telling at the same time, because I don't even know what happens the way Shonen Jump is right now to this entire magazine once One Piece comes to an end. Like, just think about it for a second. Like, a large portion of readers at this point that go to the magazine is clearly for One Piece, because at the end of the day, it is still a Goliath, regardless if, yeah, it's not doing the numbers that just like any other manga it was doing, you know, a few years back or anything like that, but One Piece is still him. Like, One Piece is still the big enchilada of the entire magazine. So when One Piece goes, a lot of those people that maybe they're One Piece readers and they'll check out whatever's new in the magazine because, well, I check it out for One Piece, might as well read this or might as well read that. When One Piece comes to an end, Shonen Jump, I thought by now they would have had at the very least a couple of series that were really up and running and, you know, on the ballpark of like a My Hero Academia or a Jujutsu Kaisen in terms of kind of filling the voids of, you know, series that have some sort of, you know, level of success behind them that can kind of be pillars so when One Piece comes to an end. Because once One Piece does, Shonen Jump itself, its publication numbers is probably going to, I don't want to say drop below, but Kodansha Weekly Shonen Magazine, you know, the rival publication, might not be at so much of a lower advantage any longer, because One Piece is really the series that's, I don't want to say paying the bills, but essentially it's one of the things that has Shonen Jump's physical publication at the standing that it's at right now. Then another franchise that is definitely still making waves and still a big dog is Sakamoto Days. Right now, Sakamoto Days with 22 volumes is sitting at 12 million copies. That's pretty awesome. Again, it's not the typical battle series from my understanding, because I read a bit of it, but from my understanding it does have really awesome fights in there. But Sakamoto Days with 12 million, it's great. I don't know if we are even going to see anything for the time being in terms of the level of success of the glory days. And when I say the glory days of like the My Heroes, definitely not going to see something of the big three for a long time. The Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. That was something that was just unheard of. Also, it was mainly because those three series in particular were the ones that had mainstream success, while most of the other manga in the magazine didn't really have that. So it was like those were the only three series that people read. Those were the only three that got the support, while everything else around it didn't really get that same type of notoriety. So I don't know if we see that. And with Sakamoto Days, while 12 million is extremely successful in my opinion in comparison to, you know, its predecessors, it's not necessarily quite there. But whenever One Piece goes, if Sakamoto Days is still around and it continues at this momentum, at the very least it will be be one of the juggernauts of the magazine. Who knows when Oda's gonna end it at this particular point. Witch Watch with 20 volumes, 3 million. I don't know how long Witch Watch is gonna go. I know the anime came out recently. Really, for the most part, it seems okay. 3 million though is nothing that is going to, again, kind of withhold or withstand Shonen Jump's, status, so to speak. Like 3 million is great. We know what they're looking for, and at the end of the day, we know what the magazine historically was. Likewise with the series Me and Roboko, though Me and Roboko is a very special case, with 1.5 million with 19 volumes, Witch Watch 3 million with 20 volumes. But Me and Roboko, it's always just been a fun little comedy series. Even the anime itself was like little shorts. It was almost like, I can't even explain it, but it wasn't a true anime adaptation. I think it did have a film or whatnot. Me and Roboko, I don't think that is a series that they're trying to like blow it up or be a success or anything like that. It's just a fun series to have a laugh that they put in there for people to check out. But Me and Roboko, I'm not going to look at it in any sort of way because it's Me and Roboko. It's not meant to be, a Naruto, One Piece, or Bleach, or even a Gintama for that matter. It's just a fun series that they're probably going to leave it in there as long as the author wants, because it kind of checks the box of having a comedy series in the magazine, and it's fun. Hunter x Hunter. I want to say that this number hasn't been updated in a while, and Hunter x Hunter's numbers are probably closer to like 90 million, considering every time it puts out a volume or two, it does a few million copies. So I feel like this number is just not updated, because I want to say it was 84 million last time. Probably should be closer to like 90, I'm gonna say. If not 90, somewhere in the upper 80s, because yeah, it's been a while. But even then, Hunter x Hunter, we already know the case. Like even when I used to do the updates, which I still might if I'm excited about it or whatnot, that the manga is returning or whatnot, we know the drill. Tagashi drops a volume or two worth of content, goes away for a while, comes back, drops a little more, goes away for a while. So Hunter x Hunter, sure, it's technically a part of Weekly Shonen Jump, even though they did do that big announcement where they were like, no, it's gonna probably go somewhere else, and then they were like, well, Jujutsu Kaisen just ended, scratch that, it's staying in Weekly Shonen Jump whenever it does come back. But yeah, numbers should be higher for Hunter x Hunter. 36 volumes, classic, still going whenever it does go. Blue Box, from my understanding, I'm hearing rumblings that it might not be lasting too much longer. 19 volumes, very successful considering the fact that it's a romance sports series, and while sports series are pretty big, considering the romance element is still a heavy part of it. Almost 8 million, 7.9 million, very big. Congrats to Blue Box. I say that, and I know probably some people are gonna be like, didn't give that type of praise to Sakamoto Days. Well, Sakamoto Days leans more towards battle. Like, it's still not quite the typical battle series, but Sakamoto Days still has a lot of action and whatnot. So like, yeah, I expect something like that to be successful. With Blue Box, you don't know what could happen with a romance sports series. So for it to be doing almost 8 million, that is a shock to me, and I'm very much so like, yo, hats off to Blue Box. That is really fire. Then another series in there that this is the only one, I repeat, out of everything in Shonen Jump that has come out in the last few years, this manga is the only one that might be one of the ones to, kind of fill the void of, so to speak, being that presence that a My Hero, a Jujutsu Kaisen, and all of those other battle series of the past kind of used to uphold, because Kagurabachi with 7 volumes is sitting at 2.2 million copies, and that's that it hasn't had an anime. But this series, when this anime comes out, that'll be a true testament to how far this thing is going to go. But this is the only series that I see in the magazine that has the success to back it, but also has that thing that you're looking for a series to be the next big one that is going to withstand the test of time, because it has the it factor. Will it reach the heights of its predecessors? Only time will tell. But this is the one battle series that Shonen Jump has that if they play their cards right, promote it properly, this could be the next one to fill the void and actually go on to be extremely successful. I mean, I've read a bit of it, I like it from what I read, but for the most part, Kagurabachi is holding strong for a Shonen battle series to come. I think Shonen Jump needs to, I don't want to say follow suit in terms of Kagurabachi, but something else needs to break alongside it, one or two other ones, so that we could actually have some sort of, I don't want to say a big 3 revival, because that's not going to happen, but so we could have something in the realm of some of the previous generations where people are checking out the magazine and they're not only going for, just let me read One Piece and whatever's in there I'll read too. Like, we need, we're going for Kagurabachi and we're going for this one and that one and that one. Again, we'll see. But 2.2 million, 7 volumes, Shonen Battle. This one it might be it. Then this series, I think they recently took it out of the magazine, so I'm interested why they put it in here, but it must be because there's just not many series that are really hitting numbers. Ruri Dragon with 3 volumes, 850,000. Honestly, not a big fan of it. I don't even know why it's on this list. I'm just keeping it all the way real. It's not even a Jump title any longer, Weekly Shonen Jump. So likewise with the next series, Black Clover, kudos to it being there. I love my series or whatnot, but ultimately it's not a Weekly Shonen Jump series. So why is it on this list? I don't know. And also that number is probably inaccurate at this point. It's probably broken the 20 million mark as well, so not really sure what's up with that. Then the remaining ones, we got The Elusive Samurai, 19 volumes, 4.5 million. I think it has the anime and it might be getting a second season. I mean, for me personally, it wasn't anything that I was like going crazy over, but it wasn't anything that it was like horrible from what I checked out. At 4.5 million, it's not doing like what you would hope for a battle series. Akane Banashi is not a battle series. 14 volumes, 2 million copies. When it's all said and done, this series are going to go in a different direction and in a different market to get money for it. And what I mean by that is like stage plays will go galore for it, because it's literally like the Rakugo game, and it just feels like it's molded for like stage plays and other avenues of revenue that they could go with this, assuming that it really captures, you know, some popularity a little bit more than what it is right now. I mean, 2 million copies, not bad at all, but I think that if they really get this to a certain level, they could do other things outside of just, you know, oh, the big anime adaptation or whatnot, because it's an interesting concept. And then last but not least, one of the more recent ones into Shonen Jump, and it's personally something that I feel like if it gets the push, it could be a rival to Kagurabachi, if not and then some, and that's Ichi the Witch with 300,000 copies in only 2 volumes. Major success for that, and I like it because yes, we need new series to come in and actually grab attention. We need these things to happen. So Ichi the Witch is one of the only other ones that I'm like, yo, let's get a win, man. Shonen Jump really right now needs these new series to really make some moves, because One Piece can't hold things on forever. It just can't. Hunter x Hunter's not, you know, regular enough to really hold things down. Black Clover's not in the magazine anymore. My Hero's over. Jujutsu Kaisen's over. You know, we need something like Ichi the Witch. We need Kagurabachi right now. I am rooting with everything I have for these series to actually obtain the popularity that they deserve, and ultimately I'm hoping for big wins. But let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. How do you feel about these manga? How do you feel about the state of Weekly Shonen Jump as it stands right now, based on these numbers and based on where things are at right now? There's like one other series that is not doing so well, but people are hoping for it to become a success or a big battle series. I think it's Ultimate Exorcist, something like that. Like maybe that could be a thing. What do you think Shonen Jump needs right now in order for it to survive into this new era where things is kind of changing, and you got, you know, other nations are really stepping it up and having things explode, where you got like Korea's Solo Leveling, you got China's 2B Hero X, you got all of these other, you know, conglomerates from different nations are coming in. What can Shonen Jump do for Japan to maintain its staple of being, you know, the #1 manga carrier, comic carrier in the world? But that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.
Everything will be okay, it'll be okay. Slowly it'll go your way, it'll go your way. Everything will be alright, it'll be alright. You gotta stand up and fight.